in the beginning, in the 50s and the 60s, all the programmers were women.
That's interesting. I didn't know.
Yes, it started off as a woman's profession. So in the early days, the men wanted to build the machines. They were electrical engineers and they wanted to work with their hands and, build these massive machines that were big as a room. And so the programming, they didn't really value it or thought that it was something interesting. So they will hire women to do this.
If you target on having an exact 50-50 split based on gender, I think that is not the right goal.
No. Of course not.
It's got to be merit-based. Logically, when the chips fall in place, it should pan out to be around there, 50-50.
Yeah, basically what happens is you start very young, and once you start very young, girls are told that this is not for you, okay? So when you are 10 years old and they give you a set of Legos and they tell you build something and now program it because Lego has this thing or whatever, and you give it to that 10-year-old boy, he starts built-in skills, and then you tell to the girl, no, this is not for you. By the time they are 18, obviously the boy has a lot more skill because he had a lot more opportunity to learn. So yes, at that point he's more skilled than the girl. So then you have to go back and provide the opportunities to both girls and boys so that they build the skills, in the same time.
Welcome to the Financial Frontiers podcast. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, hit that bell icon to get notified when we upload new content. Follow us on Spotify and give us a 5-star rating. It will help the channel, which I hope you love so much. Here we are, another episode of the Financial Frontiers podcast. Today I have a fellow guest who's also a podcaster, also an entrepreneur, also in tech, and actually we know each other for quite a while now, over 10 years.
Yes, I think so, yes.
Yes, family friends. Elena Strouthos from Cocoon Creations, one of the founders.
Yes. Currently
CTO.
Yes.
Elena, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
And for attending this podcast. This discussion is going to be around tech stuff, developers, coding, business, AI, and whatever else you want to bring into the mix. Thank you. Please introduce yourself and let's get it right in.
Hello, I'm Elena. As Dinos said, the CTO of Cocoon Creations. Basically, my background has been always in tech. I studied computer science. My master's degree was in computer science, and after that, I worked for a few years in the industry. I was working in the hospitality industry, actually, but in the tech part of the things. And then in 2012, actually, it started before that, but it was like a side hustle. But in 2012, I co-founded a company called Cocoon Creations. And back then, what we used to do, we specialized in mobile applications because it was a brand new thing. I think when we started, it was only iOS, actually, no Android at all, and then Android came very soon, but yes. So when we started, it was all mobile application, but these days we do custom software development for anything that somebody needs, has custom needs. We also resell ready solutions, and we can, help any business with their digital transformation.
So have you gone out of the scope of just mobile application now?
We do a lot of mobile application because people know Cocoon Creations for mobile application, but we do a lot more other stuff, as well.
All right, so let's go a bit back. You said you were in the hospitality industry. This was before 2012.
Yes.
You want to expand on that?
Yeah. So basically, this was my first job out of the university. It wasn't like I didn't even know anything about the hospitality industry. It was the job I got, but I stayed there for 6-7 years. So I was working for Louis Group, it's a very big company. They have cruise ships, they have hotels, they have a travel agency. And so this was my first job out of the university. And basically a part of the company was the IT department. It was a company that belonged to the group, but all our clients were the companies in the group. So we supported the cruise ships, the hotels, and everything that had to do with, and it was an interesting time because it was 2000. I went there in 2005, and they were starting to realize, we have to be online, we have to have online reservations, and you could see all the struggle, like, no, but people want to call us. And the older people in the company were saying, no, this is not ever going to change. And you could see the people that they saw that, we have to go online, we have to sell online, and the people that were struggling with this. So it was an interesting time.
Yes, just, that old school mindset transition into, what it means, this internet era, right, back then.
It was very, very new, and, people were, but why will anybody book online?
Yes.
Who does a book online now?
And it's actually interesting that Louis was innovative like that, and also to develop it in-house and to have people in-house to do it.
Basically, it depends on the department. So there were specific departments that were very innovative. Okay, like, for example, because they were innovative, I will say the Louis Hotels. They were very early on. They had an online presence. They were selling online. And you could see other departments that even if you go today, you won't find much.
They still use faxes.
Probably. So
I worked with Louis actually when I was with HS Data. I wasn't working for them, but they had the company that I was working at had outsourced services that they were providing with HS Data. It was an interesting company, very big.
It's people doesn't realize this, but it's a huge company because just the people that works on the ships, there are thousands of people. Just the employees that are on the ships, on the cruise ships, and then you have the hotels, which again they have a lot of stuff.
Yes, they're very big. Right, so that gave you some good experience, I guess, on developing internal systems.
We had systems there that were developed in the 80s, Unix based. Uh-huh. So it was like kind of a shock even for me to see those old systems. And then we were trying to replace these systems with new systems. And we had these challenges that people, wanted to stay on the old systems. They were used to it. So it was, interesting.
Right. And so I actually remember the days when Cocoon was a side hustle, and actually I knew your husband, Michalis. I knew Michalis through someone else.
Gregory, I guess.
It was through Gregory, but also someone else, because the company he was working for, a lot of the people that I was gymming with, one of the guys, his name's Dino,
basically, Michalis back then was working for Thesis.
Yes, so this guy Dino that I know was working at Thesis. I don't know if it was through him, but anyway, it's a small world.
Yeah,
Cyprus is a small. Everybody knows each other in some indirect way. The whole world, actually, this whole concept of six degrees of separation.
Yes,
or
something like that. Yes.
Where if every how does it? The theory of that is.
You can't be connected to any person in the world with 6 steps.
With
so
6
you know
steps.
somebody that knows
somebody who knows someone who knows someone who knows someone.
And in 6 steps, you can connect to everybody, even Donald Trump.
That's incredible. Is that true mathematically?
I never look into it.
Anyway, yeah. So. Yeah, side hustle. I mean, that's a great story. Maybe you want to relive those moments.
Okay, so basically, what happened is, iPhone came out, and me and Michalis were, at the point I had my first iMac. At the point we had the iPod, and then the iPhone comes out and. It's this device that's kind of, people will laugh now, but, the first time we got, our hands on iPhone and we, did the gesture and the picture zoom, it was like, wow, what is this? Yeah. It was very magical back then. So we see this device and it's very cool, it's very innovative. And basically what was happening is people started building applications for the iPhone. And Michalis was like, maybe we can build an application for the iPhone. And we were looking around saying, okay, what can we build? And at the time, actually, the programming language was a programming language called Objective-C, which is it's a programming language from the 80s, okay? It's not a modern programming language. You had to do all the memory management by hand. It was not an easy programming language. But at that time, there was a Stanford course that was for the students in Stanford, that Stanford was also offering online for free. So anybody in the world could just, monitor this course online as it was happening, get all the assignments, and, follow along with the students. So I found this course, and I started taking the course online, and I was doing the assignments, and I was learning the language. And then, at some point, I had to do a project, and we were looking around with Michalis, and we had this idea that, okay, there are all these newspapers in Cyprus. They all have RSS feeds. What if we make an application and we pull all the RSS feed and you can read the news from all the newspapers in one application? So I started building this. At the point, Gregory, of course, was working with me at Louis, and I asked him, can you help with the UI design? Because I'm very, very bad with the design. And he actually did the logo of the Cyprus News application and the UI design in Photoshop, which now sounds, I don't know, sounds crazy, but he did it in Photoshop. And so we created this mobile app, and it came out, and I think it was like, if we had come out with the mobile app like 2-3 days earlier, it would have been the first Cypriot-made mobile app that came out. But Kathimerini, the newspaper, came out like a few days before us. Oh. So we were the second one. And for a while, it was like by far the most popular mobile app in Cyprus, because everybody had that application. Okay. Eventually, because the company grew and we had other, things to do, and this had no revenue at all, we let it die because we couldn't actually support it.
Is there a cost to maintain that?
No, the cost was very, very low. But, because new versions of the operating system were coming out, you had to update the app. And then the server, we had it like it was PHP, the version of the time. You had to make upgrades, etc. And we didn't have the time to, make the upgrades because we had other projects that were for paying customers. So it sort of died. Mm-hmm. And we let it die, which from time to time I remember I say, maybe we should redo it. But then I don't have the time to redo it.
All right. So that was kind of the first project that yes. Cocoon, the creation, was born from. And yes. then it died, but then you got other jobs, obviously.
Basically, after this, I left my job and we started the company. I was the first employee of the company. And we started, trying to find our first customers. We did find our first customers. And so then eventually Michalis came and other people came and we started, growing the company.
That leap must have been quite stressful, where you both had stable jobs in good companies, very good companies. I'm sure also paying well. You didn't need to really go out for more. What was that drove you to do that?
I think both me and Michalis were working with stuff that it's not what you want to do. It's somebody else saying, you have to do this. And it wasn't really as creative as you wanted it to be, because as developers, we build stuff. And then there is all this corporate politics that comes when you are in a very big company, because both me and Michalis were in big companies. So a lot of your time is spent, fighting politics instead of actually doing the job. So we said, okay. And then we were fans of, Apple and, of the iPhone at the time. So we said, okay, maybe we can combine this and do this. And the good thing at the time, we didn't have kids yet. So it's easier because you have less risk. I mean, if I will do it now, I wouldn't do it.
You wouldn't take that leap.
Yes, because you think, okay, what if I don't have money? How am I going to feed the kids? But back then it was, I would have money to feed myself, but it's just me. It's easier when you are young.
Of course, there's a lot more room for risk. You can take the knock and then just get up and dust yourself off and try again.
Yes.
That comes with the benefits of being young and not having people that you're responsible for.
And you are more naive, so it's easier.
Yes, ignorance is bliss.
Exactly.
But, also at the same time, don't want to demotivate anybody who's in their 30s or 40s or 50s, who's thinking of doing something, they might be still at a job, but you just never know, what you're able to achieve. Of course, if you're happy where you are, there's no need to go and change anything.
Colin Sanders started KFC in his 50s?
65.
So, it's
he retired. He finished and he went into retirement, and he said, because he was a chef, that recipe he was cooking, I hope I'm not messing up the story, but I think the story is something like that. He was a chef. He had his recipe at some restaurant diner, local diner in somewhere in the US or Texas maybe, I don't know. And I guess family, friends.
I don't remember the details exactly, but I think he had this diner, and then he had some friend who told him, I want your recipe, and somehow that's how he started the franchise, but I don't remember the details exactly.
Yeah. And now we've got KFC. Super unhealthy KFC.
Yes. But my point was that you can start at any age, of 100%. Course, but obviously when you are younger, it's easier.
Yeah. So let's talk to the audience about different, 2 different points here, which I think would be quite useful based on your experience. One is the career path of being a developer, right? And whether that is you pursue something, your own business and you do something on your own, or, whether that is you go and you work for some company, again, you could be happy. Developers want to zone out. They put the music on, the hood on, and just leave me alone. Coffee, 3 days go past and they've done a system, that whole concept.
Yes, you can do that when you are 20, not when you are 40.
Because you're going to get some kid coming, jumping on you. Yeah. But in terms of a career path, do you think developers is still, being a developer, and what specifically can you advise someone who's thinking of, what they want to do in their career? Yeah, is there a specific path, like a language or? Yeah.
Okay. Look, if you go and study computer science, there are way too many specializations. Okay, it's not like it's like being a doctor. Okay, now if you are talking specifically for software engineering, I think we're in this place and time right now that is going to change how we do stuff, especially with AI. People think that, nobody will write code. I don't think that. But I think we will automate a lot of the stuff that right now the junior developers do. Having said that, the fact that you can understand how things work, even if you are not going to do it, is still very valuable. So I still think that people should know how to code. Even if a lot of things will be automated, you still should understand how it works if you want to do this job.
I agree with it.
And, still there are, even if, the AI can write, the actual code, you need an architect. You need somebody that needs to make the decision, okay, we'll use this technology with this technology, this infrastructure, this is how everything will work together. That, I don't think that it's a decision that you can leave 100% to the AI. These tools will help, but it's not something that you need the human input. Maybe eventually we won't need it, but I don't think it will happen. I mean, maybe in 10 years from now, maybe not, but I think we have another 5 years before things change.
It's spot on that you said, computer engineering, there's so many different sub professions underneath that one massive umbrella, which one can help the other. So I've seen it also, because obviously we're in the same industry, where somebody who's really strong on platform, operating system administration, but doesn't know networking, right? Is not able to perform that function of platform administration as effectively as somebody who does know networking as well, because they're kind of intertwined with each other. And I think the same applies even with developers.
Yes, because you have many different platforms, programming languages,
And so knowing like the operating system, for example, if you need to get I'm not a developer, right? I know Python, basic Python, but
everybody knows Python.
Everybody knows Python. I'm not a special case.
No. I'm just saying that it's, Python in the last 20 years is everywhere, and it's because it's a very easy language.
Why has it grown so popular?
Okay, first of all, it's very simple. It doesn't have many rules. It's a simple language. And then there is a big community, and there is all these ready packages. So if you are doing machine learning, if you are doing, anything that has to do with numerical analysis, there are frameworks for the web. It's a huge community, and they are built in. And so if you want to do something, chances are you will go find it ready. You don't have to do it.
In the form of a library, you just get it in.
So it's very fast to build complicated things just by pulling ready things together and putting them together.
Okay, so then why not just use Python for everything and full stop? Why not just completely not use anything else?
I mean,
why make life complicated?
It's used in a lot of things. But yeah, I mean, if you take, I don't know, iOS, they have their own programming languages. And if you go to the native programming language, it's more powerful. So I'll take an example. I'll leave Python behind. I'll take an example with iOS and Android. So iOS is Swift. This is the programming language we have today. Thank God we got rid of Objective-C, so it's gone. So we have Swift. On the Android side, we have Kotlin. And this is a decision of Google and Apple, okay? But then you have something called Flutter. Okay, Flutter is this framework that you can write the code in Flutter. The programming language is called Dart. And then you have, instead of writing one version for iOS and one for Android, you write it once and it runs on both operating systems. And 90% of the times it's perfect. But then you want to do something very specialized using then GPS with the camera and whatever, then you have to go native. So,
and can you go native once it's been rendered from Flutter?
You can mix and match, yes.
Does Flutter and React have something similar to each other?
React Native is a similar concept. So React Native came from Facebook, from Meta. And it's a similar concept as Flutter. Flutter came from Google. Flutter is much better. React Native has many issues. I mean, if you want to have a quality mobile application with the React Native, you will have issues because we use it in the past and then we stop using it in Cocoon Creations. Flutter does a very good job, but always there is some special case that you have to go native.
And if you've used Flutter and it's been converted, so to speak, to the other programming languages that you mentioned, I forget the Kotlin and
Kotlin and Swift.
Is it possible, or do you have to? I mean, obviously, it should be possible, right? So you go into the
you can
Swift.
Mix and match. Yes.
Okay. Interesting. Some nice programming advice here for the users.
I mean, it's highly technical, and yes, but the point is that yes, you cannot have one thing for everything.
Sure.
We always try to find a way to use one thing for everything, but yeah, that was the purpose of Java in the old days. That you will write Java and it will run on everything. It runs on everything, but it's very slow on everything.
It's slow, yeah, it's clunky. Which would you say is the hardest programming language that you're aware of?
Okay, so there are high-level programming languages like Python, and then there are low-level programming languages. The lower you get, the more difficult it gets. Like if you go C or C++, it's much more difficult. Okay, and then after C, you have even assembly, which is the programming language of the actual, the actual CPU.
Assembly.
Assembly. So, it depends on what you are trying to do. Most people don't use low-level programming languages.
Because why reinvent the wheel even?
Right? There are cases that you need to do it, so you have to do it. But you try to go from high and then go down when you need to.
We're having this technical discussion, and even though I am technical, I haven't gotten involved in many years. My role has changed, but you're reminding me of things here. So when you said assembly, for some reason, the Raspberry Pi popped into my mind.
Raspberry Pi, I think it's Python, probably.
Is it Python?
Yes, I think so. You can probably write also assembly if you want to, but.
Okay.
I haven't used Raspberry Pi for many, many years.
Yeah.
Arduino, for sure, you can, program with Python. And then there is the microbit by BBC that, again, you can program with Python and JavaScript.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't even seen one for many years.
Right. So we're talking about two different worlds here. One is, developers. And then when you bring in an entrepreneur into the mix, what makes sense is to go the easiest path.
Yes.
Right. The easiest path. Why complicate things as long as you're not compromising on the value, the quality of the product? Just go easy, So if Flutter's going to get the job done, or, one size fits all, Python fits most, then why not,
Yeah, it's we call this the MVP, minimum viable product. Build the smallest thing you can to prove your concept, and prove that, whatever you have in mind works, and then you expand it.
Right. And there are some incompatibilities, and actually this is one that I've noticed myself firsthand. So, like the MetaTrader, for example, application. MetaTrader is a trading platform. We had developed a program with Python, and it needed to create a connection with WebSockets for streaming feed of prices. And it was dropping. It was disconnecting every 5 minutes. And on the platform, the admin side, the back end, you'd see it was connected. It showed the emblem as connected, but it wasn't really, and then it would come back. Whenever we repurposed that code into C++ or C# rather, which is more compatible because MetaQuote's MQL, the MQL programming language is very similar to C#. Problem gone. Same program, same, just repurposed, just recoded.
Because every programming language has different features, so it's not all the same. Yes,
it fixed it, and it wasn't a bug on the MT5 side. I don't know if it is a bug. I guess they could have done something to be more compatible with Python, but that solved it.
I don't know the specifics.
But it's just an example. Really... It's an example of where why one would have different programming languages for whatever use case it is that they're working on. Okay, so 2012, you went into mobile apps. You focused Cocoon Creations on development of mobile apps. You created a whole bunch of them. You've since shifted, and I didn't know that you're now developing.
Okay, basically, a mobile app, it's the front end. So you need a back end, obviously. So you need the infrastructure on the back end. You need to design the mobile app. You need to help the client figure out what they want, because a lot of times they say, I want a mobile app, or I want a website, or I want an application, but they don't really know what they want. So what we do right now, we start from the beginning to the end. So they come to us, they say, okay, I have an idea, and we sit with them, we will consult them, and we'll help them, write down the requirements and what they want. We will create a document like 50, 60, 70 pages, and we can use this document to offer them a price, and they can go to a competitor or to whoever else, and again get a prize. And then they can come to us. We'll do the UI, UX design. We'll do the backend, the APIs, the front end, whatever is mobile, web, or whatever it is. And then obviously after that, we will offer support, maintenance, we do the whole cycle of, bringing a software to life.
And it could be any kind of software.
We have a lot of clients in the financial sector. We have retail, we have telecoms, but it can be anything, yes.
And how many people are in Cocoon Creations?
14.
14. Nice. So I also know you have the podcast.
Sorry?
You have the podcast.
Yes, I do have a podcast.
What's it called? The 20%. What?
Breaking the 20%.
Breaking the 20%. I've seen a few episodes. They've popped up in my feed. Nice. When did you start that? And what inspired you to start that?
So 3 years ago, basically, I started the podcast. So basically, I'm a woman in tech, and unfortunately, we are not that many. Okay. So yeah, it's 20% actually, more or less. And it's the same. It's not a Cyprus thing. It's anywhere you go in the Western world, in Europe, in the US, it's about 20% women. So because I'm a woman in tech, people will come to me and will say, you are the only one and there is nobody else. And, and I will have this conversation over and over again where I say to people, in the beginning, in the 50s and the 60s, all the programmers were women.
That's interesting. I didn't know.
Yes, it started off as a woman's profession. So in the early days, the men wanted to build the machines. They were electrical engineers and they wanted to work with their hands and, build these massive, massive machines that were big as a room. And so the programming, they didn't really value it or thought that it was something interesting. So they will hire women to do this. And there was a reason, because before the actual machines, because computers were built as, in the beginning, they were glorified calculators, okay? They were using them to do difficult math problems. So in the 40s, during the World War II, if they wanted to calculate the trajectory of, how a ballistic missile will go, a woman had to, and they were all women, by the way, back then, and they were called computers, and they were women. So a computer was a woman. She will take about a week to do this calculation by hand. And then they built computers, and the computer could do this in 20 seconds, for example. So that's why, because there was also this background, they will hire women to be programmers. So in the early years, all the programmers were women. So I thought, okay, I will do this podcast, and I will tell their stories, women like Grace Hopper, Margaret Hamilton, and Jean Jennings Battick, and other women. So I wanted to do this. So I started the podcast. I said I will say the story of these 10, 20 women, and that will be it. And then I will find more women and more women and more women. So I continue doing it, and so we have one episode every 15 days, and in every episode is the story of one woman that, it's in tech. We do contemporary women as well. So we have one episode in English and one in Greek. So we do this, one in Greek, one in English.
You run it twice?
Basically, we have one episode per week. But in between, basically, this is a new thing that we did this year. So this year, in between the episode that are stories, we started a new segment with Michalis. Michalis is my co-founder, my husband. So basically, this part is about gossiping on tech. And the idea was that we glorify all these people, Mark Zuckerberg and Sam Altman and everything. And we wanted to be critical on them. So it's like this, we take the stories that is happening in the news in the week, and we're like, okay, this is what they did. Because, okay, they built great things, okay. Like OpenAI, it's an impressive company. But then if you look, what people do, you can see that, it's not all. They are not perfect. And this is what we need to understand as well, that, it's just...
Well, that's interesting. I did see some clips with Michaelides. I didn't know there was a separate thing from breaking the 20%.
It's all in the same feed, but yeah.
Okay. And so it started off breaking the 20% for you to showcase or tell the story of these 10, 20 women developers.
Which is much more than 10, 20 after all.
Oh, so that's why it's continuing. Because I was going to ask you, has the concept changed, or are you still doing,
We are still doing the same concept. I mean, as I'm doing the podcast, I'm discovering more and more and more that I didn't know, because I knew the very famous ones, okay? But there are a lot more.
Wow. That's interesting. I didn't know that. Okay. So thank you, woman, for bringing technology into the world, because...
So unfortunately what happened is it started off with the women, and then in the 80s, when it became, more fashionable, more mainstream, that's when things shift and, men take over.
Do you feel that men kind of stole the thunder?
It's complicated, okay, why it changed, because it's not one thing, but in a way, because it became more popular, more mainstream, more glamorous, then women were pushed out. And it's more complicated than that, but part of this is, this.
So what are you doing today to, I understand you want to kind of bring awareness, and
Yes.
Do you want to shift it? Do you wish it was a 50-50 thing? And what's the reason?
I mean, take any sector, and if you put only one perspective, then you have issues, okay? We want 50-50, obviously, because men and women, we have different experiences in life. We have different traits. So once you put all of this together, you have better, products. For example, and it's kind of ridiculous, if you take the very first version of Apple Health, okay, it could track how much alcohol you have in your blood, but it couldn't track a woman's cycle.
Right.
So you can see the perspective that somebody thought that alcohol blood level is more important than a problem that 50% of the population has.
Okay. Yes, 100%. I think if you blend, both sexes, it makes sense that different products will get created. But here's the thing. Do you need to have women to be the actual developers, or maybe they could be the decision makers, or
both?
Yeah, all over.
Both, any role. I mean,
right.
Yeah.
I think it's the main goal should be based on merit, as long as you're able, right? And I don't think that 80-20 makes sense, right? I don't think that 30% of the women are not capable than the 30% of the men who have taken that portion. But at the end of the day, if you target on having an exact 50-50 split based on gender, I think that is not the right goal.
No, of course not.
It's got to be merit-based. And logically, when the chips fall in place, it should pan out to be around there, 50-50.
Yeah, basically what happens is you start very young, and once you start very young, girls are told that this is not for you, okay? So they don't, so when you are 10 years old or at that age, and they give you a set of Legos and they tell you build something and now program it because Lego has this thing or whatever, an Arduino, and you give it to that 10-year-old boy, he starts building skills. And then you tell to the girl, no, this is not for you. By the time they are 18, obviously the boy has a lot more skill because he had a lot more opportunity to learn. So yes, at that point, he's more skilled than the girl. So then you have to go back and provide the opportunities to both girls and boys so that they build the skills, in the same time.
Yeah.
Because if you wait until you are 20, yes, by that time, a lot more men have this skill, because all the stereotypes, they told them that you can do it, and they told to the girls, you cannot do this.
Yes, it's wrong. I think it's better, I agree with this, and it is better to let everybody have an equal chance to try. And then there might be different professions and different sectors where 80-20 naturally pans out, because just for some reason, the way, maybe there's something that, maybe developers, maybe women by nature and the way the brain is, not that we're like super different, right? But let's just say, could be far better developers than men. But because it was almost taken away from the beginning, I guess because of mindset, culture, whatever it is, you could never know. I agree with that. You got to just give the same chance to everyone, and then see who performs better at the end of the day.
So like 10, 12 years ago, there was this study. So there was this group that took GitHub. Do you know what GitHub is? Okay, so GitHub is this place that people submit their code, and other people can go and they can make adjustments or improvements. And so you suggest, I want to improve this with this way. And there's somebody that owns that repository, that code, can say, yes, I accept it, or no, I don't accept it. So they made this study, and they tried to see which of these, pull requests is the suggestion to change something, are accepted more by men or women. And they found that the code written by women had a better acceptance rate than the men. Okay. And they tried to see, okay, why is that? Okay. Why women do better? I mean, it wasn't a big difference. It was like 2% better than, women than men. It wasn't like, but still women did persistently better than men. So they tried to figure out why. So first they said, okay, maybe women make smaller changes, and that's why it's easier to be accepted, but it didn't matter if it was a big or a small change. And then they said, okay, maybe it's a reverse bias. So because it's a woman and because there are less women in the field, maybe that's why their code gets accepted more. And it wasn't that. And the only time they found that this thing changed, when it was obvious that the code was written by a woman, because there was something in the profile that made it obvious that this programmer was a woman, that was when women started doing worse than men.
Interesting.
So it's a just because of the sex, the perception of how good a programmer is changes.
Oh, it's crazy. Okay. So I'm going to go a little bit of a different topic, actually, just maybe you know this, but when you mentioned GitHub, and we also spoke about ChatGPT, OpenAI, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the reason why ChatGPT is so good at giving suggested code, and it can actually write code. So you can go to ChatGPT and you can, tell it to write a code from scratch, write me up a website or whatever code you can think of. It's not going to be like perfect, but it's able to compose.
It's very, very good at coding.
And the reason, and I think better than any of the other large language models. And the reason is, and very strategic, I don't know if it was strategic, but definitely to the benefit of OpenAI, where Microsoft is 49%.
I mean, now it's changed, but I think at some point they had like 49%. Yeah.
49% of OpenAI. And Microsoft also owns GitHub.
Yes.
And so that means that whole corpus of text, all that code gets fed into that large language model and it learns.
GitHub is mostly open source, which means it's available to the world. Anybody that wants to take the data and train it, they can do it. And also OpenAI use sources that they didn't have the copyright of, so they are getting sued now. So it's kind of big story. But the thing about large language model and code that makes them really good at coding, and Claude, which is by Anthropic, it's even better at coding than ChatGPT.
Say that one again, Claude.
Claude.
What, CLAUD?
DE, yes. Yes, by Anthropic. Anthropic is mostly owned by AWS. Okay. Anyway, the point is that code is very structured, it's very typical. So it's like, it's the easiest thing to predict how it will be structured.
Right.
Yeah. So it's kind of an easy application of, what a large language model is.
But not everybody would think about that, because if you go and you ask, that makes total sense, because when you do programming, there's a very structured, specific way a code can be composed. It's not like language.
Yes, exactly.
That is up to the creativity and the grammar of the speaker. It can be different. You can say something and, compose a bunch of words differently to what I would, but the meaning comes out, the same message comes. That's not the same in programming. In programming, there's very little room to adjust with how that code is structured. And that actually, counterintuitively, if somebody from the out, you don't know this, right? But somebody from the outside says, write me up this code, and then it writes this code, you're like, wow, that's a lot more impressive than it just giving me back some conversational phrase. But it's not. It's actually not. It's harder to give back a conversational phrase than it is to give a programming code.
Because, it's much more complicated than that. But if you really, really want to oversimplify, what does ChatGPT or any of these things do? They are always trying to predict what is the next word that comes, okay? So it's just trying to predict, okay, after this word, what will be the most possible next word? And in programming, it's much easier than, in language, in natural language.
That's an interesting perspective. It makes total sense. But you mentioned before, yes, ChatGPT, GitHub is open source, but doesn't Microsoft own it?
The platform, yes, but the code that is hosted
it's open source. It's available to the public, and you cannot, I don't know, can somebody go on GitHub and ask for subscription for access to their code on GitHub? No. Basically, when you have a repository on GitHub, if it's open source, which most of it is open source, then I can go and download and use it. But you can also make, obviously, code private, where it's not accessible, but you just use it as a repository for versioning.
For your own company, yes, you can do that as well. But what is publicly available is mostly open source.
Right. Which has dangers. It's got some risk.
It's a big discussion, but there is this theory that the more eyes on the code, the more secure the code is. Because once enough, eyes have seen the code, it's very difficult to have an error, to have a security issue.
Yes. And let's just break it down for somebody who's not, as soon as I said that, you understood exactly what I mean. Here's the risk, right? Let's say somebody has got an ill intent, and they put up a code, and that
it happened many times.
It happened, right? So you give us an example where how could GitHub be risky for the public?
Okay, there is this tool, a very popular tool right now, that is used to generate code. Okay, and when you go into that tool, you can sort of, download the ready stuff to use. And because people that are using it are just generating code based on prompts to create something, they don't understand what they are downloading. So we had this very recently an example where people put out malicious code in these packages. People that didn't understand coding, which anybody that knew the basic stuff will know that this is malicious code, download this thing and then download this thing on their computer and install all their password or their credentials, everything. And this was very obvious. And this is the risk of, if you have somebody that's vibe coding, but they don't really understand coding, this thing can happen. But even if you have experienced programmers, we had incidents where somebody managed to hide malicious code inside something to carry on an attack. It happens all the time.
Yes.
But the idea is if something is very popular, okay, like Linux, for example, or a library that 1 million people on the planet are using, enough people have seen this and they have reviewed it. It's just very difficult to hide in their malicious code.
Yes. How would you advise somebody who's downloading code that's not so popular?
If you don't understand what it's doing, don't use it.
Don't use it. Or at the very least, take the code, don't download it, take the code, put it into ChatGPT and ask it if it's dangerous.
It won't necessarily answer. But the point is, if you are not understanding what this thing is doing, you probably shouldn't be using it, right?
Yeah.
And especially if, only 2 other people are using it. So, okay, what is this? I don't understand it. Nobody else is using it.
Yes. Keep away.
Stay away, yes.
So let's go back to the podcast and also some of these other initiatives that you got going on. So you got Cocoon Creations, still currently the full-time job, whatever it is. You've got the breaking the 20%. You've also got this other critic.
It's all part of the same podcast, let's say.
Do you want to give me a couple of examples on what it was interesting? You said OpenAI, they've created such an amazing product, and what have they done wrong?
Many things. But I mean, I don't know if you know this, but like 2 years ago, you remember when Sam Altman, the CEO, was fired?
They kicked him out, yeah.
They kicked him out and then they came back.
Yes.
I mean, if you go back and you see the background, it's very, very interesting, like the politics are
That's
amazing.
politics. So that's company politics, right? And not only company, and also governmental politics. I think massive company with big projections, and whoever's going to be in the top seat of OpenAI
it's running the world.
Yeah, or pretty much.
And that's why they have right now they are sort of breaking up with Microsoft.
What happened back then? Can you share the story?
So there was a book that came out like 2-3 weeks ago that was supposedly, the journalist that wrote it went and interviewed people. There is no smoking gun. It's just a combination of people. Okay, OpenAI has this very strange structure where you have a non-profit that is controlling a for-profit organization. And it's a very long story. But the point is that the people in the board, the non-profit board, they felt that they couldn't trust Sam Altman. They were very inexperienced, so they thought, I can just fire somebody as powerful without really giving a good reason. And they did it, and then, everything
backfired.
It backfired massively. Because one thing I didn't know, and I found out in the book, the first thing that Sam Altman did, he hired as crisis management the person that hired the Monica Lewinsky scandal for Clinton. So they had no chance against him.
And the board of the non-profit, Elon Musk was involved there, or was he out of the board?
No. He was long gone by then, because basically OpenAI started as a non-profit. The biggest donor at the time was Elon Musk. There was a lot of conflict, which we can stay here for an hour to talking about that. But eventually, he stepped down and he left. And yeah. So by the time this was happening, Elon Musk was not involved.
Right. And I want to ask you of your opinion of what Elon Musk is doing with his version of AI, Grok, and all of that. But before we get there, what's happening with Microsoft and OpenAI?
It looks like Sam Altman is trying to, pull back and, let's say, because Microsoft right now essentially sort of owns OpenAI because they put all this money in, or they gave them all their compute, so they sort of control them. And so I don't know what's going behind closed door, but we can see Sam Altman trying to go use also Google, trying to make deals with others. So you can see that somewhere in the background there is a power struggle, which we will never learn, or we will learn much later.
the direction that OpenAI and ChatGPT is going to go, I mean, obviously they've dominated on the large language model side of things. I think for the first time, Google, with its main money maker, has been put in threat.
They are in big trouble, yes.
It was, when...
Because, transformers, ChatGPT and GPT, the T stands for transformer. Transformers were invented by Google at Google. And they had the technology and they never implemented it. And then OpenAI came along and implemented it.
What is GP?
Generated, pre-trained transformer.
Interesting. And Transformers was invented by Google.
Yes. So they invented the technology, but then OpenAI actually made it popular and made it a very good implementation of it. Because it goes against their interest. Because unless you go to Google search and you type and you see the blue links with the ads in between,
yes.
How are they going to make money?
Yes.
Yes. So now they're trying to mix and match, and they have these little things on the top, and then you have the classic results. But they are in trouble because people use Google search less and less, and they go to,
That's the thing. So what is the threat? Obviously, for the past 25 years, Google was so dominating on, they got such a massive land grab of the search, where the internet, when one would speak about the internet, would be in line with internet equals Google.
Yes.
You go on Google.
It's a verb.
It's become a verb. That's how strong they became. And I mean, honestly, 3-4 years ago, if you had Bing was trying their different ways. They tried Microsoft with Bing. They tried all these different things. They tried all these browsers that came out, all these trying to get into that game. Everyone was not able to. And, 3-4 years ago, if you had to ask me, will Google ever lose this search engine game? Oh, they'll never. They're too big. Yet, today,
they're in trouble.
They're in trouble because
also, something like 80% of their revenue comes from ads.
Exactly.
And how can they run ads if they don't have search?
100%. And so now all these new terms are coming up. So when we go search and we say, instead of going to Google, I for one have replaced Google with ChatGPT.
Yes.
Because there's a convenience.
Everybody has done.
A big percentage. Because there's a convenience element. It's a bit of this plays into human nature. We always search for the most convenient path. Reduce time, give me the most convenient thing. And what are we talking about here? The difference is when you want to search for whatever, best barber in near me,
yes.
Right? If you go to Google, you'll have to click on every link. You'll have to, go and read the comments and get into the website of every barber and whatever. Now you're just going to the AI and say, give me your opinion, whatever, and it does all that for you.
Yes.
There's a convenience element. And so all these new terms are coming out. So now with my website, I've never put an importance on my website. I've never had any online business per se. All mine has been networking at events and whatever. I've had a website, but I've never put attention on SEO, anything like that, right? But
SEO is dying now.
SEO is dying. So this is what I'm saying now. New term has come out where companies doing this for me. They've just revamp my website, and now there's this new product that I want to get on my website, which is driving. It needs to drive sales online, so I need to pay attention to SEO. And the guy responded to me. He said, "Okay, SEO and LEO optimization, which stands for large language model, whatever. So that means when you go and search in ChatGPT." For whatever product or whatever, if you're a barber, just to bring that example, if you're a barber, best haircut near me, right? And you're a barber, your website gets featured in the results of that response that the large language model produces, which is interesting. It's changing the whole landscape of
Anyway,
things.
it's amazing. There are companies that do this, and actually we had our first. So one of the products we have in Cocoon Creations is a solution for HR management and payroll. Okay, and it's called Crew. And somebody calls to Michaelides and says, "I want this, solution from you." Michaelides says, "Okay," because he always asks, "Where did you find this product?" He said, "I asked ChatGPT." It was like, wow, our first client from ChatGPT.
Oh, wow. Imagine. Yeah, because it could give some ideas and things like that. So, yeah, I mean, things are changing. Google for the first time, but I want to just put one more comment over there before I ask you on your opinion on these other, Perplexity, Grok, and whatever it is. Don't underestimate Google. Because, listen to this, right? Let's just look at some examples. They were losing the mobile game. They were losing badly. They lost a massive portion of the market, as did Microsoft when iOS was out. Microsoft have tried all these different combinations. They never got it right with Nokia, with whatever. Google came with Android. They got a big portion. They were losing a big portion of the browser game, Firefox, with Microsoft.
Yeah, they didn't have a browser, and then they came out with Chrome, and they dominated everything.
Boom. So I'm sure there are other examples that they didn't manage, but I wouldn't underestimate Google. Listen, ChatGPT is so far progressed now. I think it's going to be very difficult with your Gemini or whatever. But I don't think they're just going to sit back. And they're a powerhouse. They are a powerhouse. So
we'll see. I mean,
we'll see,
okay.
Yeah.
I mean, Android, it came out early enough to, compete with iOS. And iOS dominates a certain sector and Android dominates a different one. So they sit in different places. So iOS is the expensive stuff. Android is the more cheap phone. So it's kind of different places in the, value chain. Okay, browsers, they kill everybody.
Yeah.
So yeah, when they came out with Chrome, I think this time is more difficult for them.
Yeah.
We'll see.
This one's a hard one. What's your opinion about, which is so ChatGPT, obviously everybody knows it. The ones that I'm aware of, there's Perplexity, there's Gemini.
Yes, from Google. There is Llama by Meta, which nobody is using, but it exists, yes.
Llama. Grok
by XAI, Elon Musk.
Elon Musk. You mentioned another one before.
Claude. Yes.
Who develops this one?
It's Anthropic.
Basically,
okay.
Anthropic is huge, yes.
Yeah. So basically, Anthropic is a team of OpenAI engineers that left and started Anthropic. So it's kind of the same core team that, had the skills to build this really, really well. And I think when it comes to, these things, ChatGPT is the best. And then you have Claude, which is, there are certain cases that I find it better than ChatGPT. Gemini, it got much, much better lately, but it wasn't that good. Everything else, I don't care about them. I mean, there is so much I cannot ask the same question to 10 different tools. So I have to choose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, because it's only, it can only get so much better. But here's another thing. Actually, I was having this discussion with Janos from Netcast. He was a guy who was helping with the podcast before I got into the studio. Yeah. Goes to me, have you seen this ChatGPT? There's different versions, obviously. There's the free version.
Yes.
Then there's I think it's called premium or whatever it is, $25 a month.
$20 a month or 20 euros. I'm paying for it, but I don't remember what I pay.
Whatever it is, 20, 25, whatever. Then there's the team version, which is for teams. And again, it's per user, €25.
And there is a business version of the same thing.
Right. But then there is the pro.
Yes.
Which is €200 a month.
Yes.
And he says apparently his friend, which is a lawyer, uses it, and he goes, once you go there, you don't go back.
Yes, because the point of this version is like you replace an employee, you are personal assistant with that thing. So if you think 200 euros per month is a lot of money, yes. But how much is the salary?
Yes.
So it's cheaper.
Yes, 100%. I'm going to use it, but don't worry, Rafaela, you're not going anywhere. I still need you. I still need you. Okay, that's interesting. But because it's not only about the let's say the PA, but it's also I think the accuracy is an important one, because even though, and you have the paid version, I also have the paid version, not the 200 at the moment, but the 20, 30, it makes mistakes.
Yes, it hallucinates a lot.
Yeah.
And it depends. If you are asking something very, simple, or that it's, everybody, or at least it's, very well-known fact, it will be okay. But because I will go back to, because it's just trying to give you an answer, and it doesn't know to say, I don't know the answer.
Yes.
If it doesn't know the answer, it will make up an answer. And it will make up the answer with the same confidence that it will give you the correct answer.
Right, that's
so
interesting.
You have to fact check.
Yes. Because it says, what is the next word that makes the most probable, that has the highest probability to be added?
So if I ask him, who is Dinos? And it knows who is Dinos, it will give me a correct answer. But if it doesn't know, it will make up something. You say Dinos is whatever, a football player.
Interesting. But obviously it's getting better and better, right? And the speed at which...
there is this research mode. I don't know if you ever used it. That's amazing.
I haven't used it, no.
So research mode is when you say, okay, I have this question. Go out.
Oh, yes, I have used it, of course.
Figure out the answer to this really difficult question. And it will go out and it will think for 10, 20, 30, 40 minutes, 1 hour, and it will come back with an amazing answer. And it's like you sent somebody out to do research for 1 month.
Wow.
It will do it.
I have used it. You're right. I haven't used it a lot, but...
so basically I had this episode I wanted to do on the podcast that it was about a Russian engineer. Okay, she was Ukrainian, not Russian, but in the Soviet Union. And I knew about her, but I didn't know much. And all the sources were in either Russian or Ukrainian. And I don't speak any of this language. So I was, okay, how can I do this? And then I thought, okay, I will go to ChatGPT and tell him, okay, go out. This is the person I want to know their life, and I want a biography. Go out, go find these sources, and come back and translate them for me in English. And it went out. It found sources in Russian that I could never find because I don't speak the language, in Ukrainian. And it came back and gave me a full biography, like 3,000 words.
Wow.
And it has references, so I could go back to the original websites and I could take it like the Russian or the Ukrainian, put it in Google Translate and make sure that what I was saying was correct. And it was correct.
Incredible. Let's move on to, I know you have this other, the hackathon.
Hack Cyprus.
Hack Cyprus.
I mean, I'm retired from it, but I used to do this, yes. So basically in 2012, around the same time that Cocoon Creations started, along with a group of people, we started Cypriot Enterprise Link, which back then, it was right after the economic crisis and everything. So we wanted to promote entrepreneurship and, connecting people in Cyprus and abroad, Cypriots, to build, stuff. And part of that community was a big developers community that we call Hack Cyprus. And we started doing the very first one, hackathon, that happened in Cyprus in 2012. So we started doing hackathons, and we did the very first hackathon in Cyprus, in Limassol, in Tepag in 2012. And then every year we will do this hackathon. And it was, for 6-7 years, we used to do this every year, and developers from all over Cyprus would come and they would build stuff. And it was, very...
And what was the agenda? What was the event about? Is it 2-3 days? And
it was basically, we will start Friday afternoon, and we will go on this Sunday afternoon. I don't know if you know what a hackathon is. You are supposed to not sleep and build a product from scratch in 3 days. So, it's these teams will come, young. Usually they are young because they can, handle this. And they will build their products in 3 days. And we had some amazing teams over the years that they went on and they built, after that, amazing companies actually.
Is that continuing or?
Hack Cyprus, we stopped.
So it was you. So you stopped.
No, it wasn't only me, but eventually the people that were running this, we sort of, we move on to other things. So we stopped with the hackathon, but the Hack Cyprus continues as a podcast. Andreas, who took over after me, he continued this, and the thing with hackathons now in Cyprus, everybody is running hackathons. Every week there are 2 hackathons. So it stopped being so unique, because when we're doing this, we're the only people doing it. But Andreas continued, and there is a Hack Cyprus podcast now.
Right.
So it kind of evolved.
It evolved into a podcast format.
Yes.
Okay. Elena, I don't know how long we've been talking.
I don't know. I think more than an hour. A lot more than an hour.
Must be, right? Yes, it is. Okay. Let's move on to closing comments.
Okay.
Thank you for your time. Sure the audience will find this quite valuable. This was great. Where can people find you? What is Cocoon Creations next 5 years? Whatever you want to
Okay, let's start with Cocoon Creations. Obviously, if you Google Cocoon Creations, you will find the website cocooncreations.net. You go Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever, you will find it, and you can, contact us. And, if you have anything, we can help you. That's Cocoon Creation. For me, if you go to any of the Instagram, I'm everywhere. So you just write Elena Georgiou Strouthos, and you will find me on Instagram, on Facebook, everywhere. So yes. So yeah, people can connect with me.
Awesome.
I'm online, very online.
Good. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
That's a wrap.